right now we're continuing with the law of cosines. All right. I want you guys to build the triangle for number 2. All right. Right now I'm going to draw an angle that's about 100 degrees. That's about a 90. Say that's about 100 degrees right in there. I'm going to label this as my angle B. All right, so we have angle B at 100. All right, lowercase a and lowercase c are 10 and 8 respectively. So right here, I'm going to put the 10. Right here, I'm going to call this lowercase a. I'm going to put c right here. That's an 8. I'm going to label this capital A and this capital C. When I ask you to solve the triangle, I want all the sides and all the angles. So right up here, I'm going to write angle A, angle B, all right, so all that was given to us was the 100-degree angle for B, and we were given A, which is 10 units, and C, which is 8 units. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to solve for the missing side, B. Now, I want you to look right here at this triangle and understand we were given a side, an angle, and another side. Now from geometry, back in the day, you probably heard of the triangle proof using side, angle, side. This angle that's in the middle is called the included angle. Okay, that's the included angle. Whenever you have a triangle where you're given a side and you're given the measure of the included angle and another side, that is one scenario where you use the law of cosines. You cannot use the law of sines for this triangle. Okay? The reason why you can't use the law of sines is you've got to have a side and its angle to start out. Remember the law of sines is what? Like A over sine of A equals B over sine of B, which equals C over sine of C. But what do you have to have? You've got to have a side and its angle going across. So we don't have that for this one, so that's why we have to use the law of cosines. What was the other scenario that we did yesterday? You had all three what? We had all three sides. So if you have all three sides, use the law of cosines. Okay? Now, since we're looking for lowercase b, that's what we're going to start out with. I want you guys to write the formula. B squared equals a squared plus c squared minus 2ac cosine of capital B. Let's plug in what we have. We have b squared. Oh, no, we don't. That's what we're looking for. We do have what? A squared, which is 10. We have our c value, which is 8. And we're going to continue. We're going to resetting. Of course it is. I'm in the middle of the video, so it's not going to work. There we go. Minus 2 times my a value, which is 10, times my c value, which is 8. This is where we have something that we didn't have yesterday. Guess what we have? We don't have to solve for angle B because we actually have angle B. All right, try not to, I know those yawns back there from total excitement. It's okay. All right. Now, yesterday we had to solve things in parts, right? Always have. Remember that? Yesterday we solved things in parts. This time you don't have to. This time you can literally type this whole thing right there as it appears in the calculator, as long as your calculator is in what mode? Degree mode. So let's do this again. Parentheses 10 squared plus parentheses 8 squared minus 2 times 10 times 8. Cosine, when you type in your 100 degrees that was given to you, and then all you have to do is press enter. Now this is where students mess up. They write this down as their answer, but that actually, everybody, represents the b value that has been squared. So what's the last thing that we have to do? Take the what? Square root. We've got to take the square root of this. So don't forget that step. 13.8. Now, right now, that, we're just going to round that. Since that's a 4, it's not going to go up. So 13.8, that is going to be our measure for our side. Now, if this is 100 degrees and that's 13.8, obviously this angle B is the biggest angle. All right, so obviously 10 will probably be our next biggest angle. Angle A will be our next biggest, and C will be our smallest. Now what we're going to do, technically we could use the law of sines right now. If we wanted to find the measure of angle A, we could use the law of sines, but we're going to practice using the law of cosines. Okay? So right now, we're going to find angle A, everybody. So put A squared equals B squared plus C squared minus 2BC cosine of A. Now we're going to plug in everything that we have. We're going to put the 10 squared right here. The B value, I'm only going to write 13.8, everybody, but when we use the calculator, I'm going to use the whole thing that the calculator gave us, that 13.84 or whatever it was. So right now I'm only writing 13.8 squared. I don't feel like writing the whole thing. C, and my B value is another 13.8.
Isn't that what we measure at?
Yeah.
Instead of going back up to
So yes, when we do this, we're gonna scroll back up on our calculator and use the whole decimal that the calculator gives. And then we have an 8. Okay, and we're gonna say cosine of A, because that's what we're looking for. Now I'm gonna highlight this one differently, because remember this one we have to break things down into its pieces, right? We have to do things separate. You can't just type it all in at once. Okay? So those are 3 separate things. Now the easiest one, obviously, is this 10 squared, that's 100. What I want us to do right now in the calculator is let's look at this and review this one in the calculator right now. Okay? So I'm going to go to the calculator. See that right there? I'm going to go open parentheses. I'm going to scroll up. I'm going to grab it. Close it. I'm going to square the whole thing. I'm not just squaring the 13.8. I'm squaring the whole inshallah. Right. Plus, what was the other thing we have to do? It's 13.8 squared plus what? 8 squared. Press enter. So right here, everybody, this 255.78, we're just going to use that for right now. So I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to use the 255.78. Now, I'm just writing that down. I'll use the whole thing once we solve it. Minus. Now we have to do what? 2 times the 13.8 times 8. So I'm going to go back to my calculator. I'm going to go 2 times. I'm going to scroll up, grab that answer. Times 8. Press enter. I get 221.58. So I'm going to use the 221.58. 221.58 times the cosine of capital A. Now that we have this, what's our next step? What do we have to subtract from both sides? We have to subtract the 255, yeah. From both sides. All right. Now this is going to give us a negative 155.78, which is going to equal negative 221.58. This zeroes out. Times the what? Times the cosine of A. Now what did we say about if we had negatives on either side of the equal sign? Those eventually will just what? Cancel each other out? Just going to put a plus. Plus. Alright? So what's our final step before we take the inverse of cosine? Divide. So divide this out. Divide this out. By 221.58. 221.58. Alright, so here's what we have. We have the cosine, the angle A, equals this fraction, 155.78 divided by 221.58. Now we have to take the inverse. Down 2 points. So our answer for A is going to equal the inverse. We have to apply the inverse to both sides. So here's what I didn't do. I didn't say, all right, multiply this side by the inverse, and then multiply the other side by the inverse. And yes, my board's resetting. So I know you guys are typing in right now. You probably have the final answer before me. Most likely. There we go. Board's away. Oh! So basically, when you apply the inverse to both sides, where do I put the inverse? I always have to lead out with it. Okay? So the inverse of cosine is 155.78 divided by 221.58. And that will give us the approximate value for A in degrees. You can do that in the calculator right now. So we had 100, right? And Adam, which one did we take away? We took away this guy right here, right? So I'm going to scroll up and grab it. We took away that. And we got this right here. Now, this one, I'm going to divide this answer right here by the negative 221.58. But I'm using, notice in the calculator, what am I using? I'm using the whole thing. I'm not just using our approximate value. You guys see this decimal right here? This decimal, this big old long decimal right here, is the decimal that that's what this decimal right here is equal to. Alright? So when I go back and say second cosine, I'm going to go up and grab this whole thing. And I'm going to press enter. It gives me what? 45.3 degrees. Now, did you guys get 0.2? What do you guys get? 0.3? Good. 0.3.
I got 38.47.
So 45.3 degrees. So right here, I want to cancel that. Right up here for angle A, what am I going to write? I'm going to write 45.3 degrees. Now we're not going to do that long process for C. All right? All we have to do is simply do what? Take those away from 108. What angle C? 34.7 degrees. Now, do you guys remember when I said we could use the law of sines for this? Okay? So since we have 2.5 minutes, let's just do the law of sines and see if we can get that same 45.3 just for practice. Okay? So we're going to go over here, we do the law of sines. Remember, the law of sines is going to say A over the sine of A equals B over the sine of B. Alright? Our lowercase a ended up being what? What was our lowercase a? 10? Okay, 10 over the sine of A equals, what was our lowercase b? 13.8 over the sine of B, and the sine of B was 100, right? Alright, good. Now if we cross multiply these, this is actually faster, right? If we cross multiply these, we get 10 sine of 100 equals 13.8 times the sine of A. If you do the cross products. 10 times the sine of 100 equals 13.8 times the sine of A. You guys remember what we do next in the law of sines? Nope. Yeah, we divide both sides by 13.8. So the sine of A, what is our big old fraction right here? It's the 10 sine of 100 over 13.8. So what I'm going to do right now, real quickly, so we have 45 seconds, we're going to type this in. By the way, A is going to equal what? The inverse of this. So we're going to go second sine, we're running out of time. We're going to go alpha y equals enter. What's in the numerator? 100 sine, 10 sine 100, right? 10 sine 100, close parentheses, 13.8. Can we finish it before the end of the video? I think we can. Now, do you see why this is different than this? Because we didn't use what? We didn't use the whole long decimals.
You could scroll up and do that.
Yeah. So yes, you could scroll up and use the exact answer, and that would make it correct.